Hi folks, Mythic ODM here. Well, a couple of weeks ago, the UA7 playtest was released. I'll have a more in-depth look through the classes in our video, but something that seems to have caused an uproar in the community, and let's be honest, if there's anything that ever the RPG community could ever agree upon, that would be a miracle unto itself. So there are two big concerns right now, Counterspell and Twinned Spell. So what has changed? Let's start with Counterspell. In the 2014 version of Counterspell, it reads as follows. You attempt to interrupt a creature in the process of casting a spell. If the creature is casting a spell of 3rd level or lower, its spell fails and has no effect. If it is casting a spell of 4th level or higher, you make an ability check using your spell casting ability. The DC equals 10 plus the spell's level. On success, the creature's spell fails and it has no effect. At higher levels, when you cast a spell using a spell slot of 4th level or higher, the interrupted spell has no effect if its level is less than or equal to the level of the slot you use. Now, it is a reaction and you can slot it where you want. If you had a 6th level slot available, you can upcast it into that and immediately shut down anything 6th level and lower, etc. So this is always interesting for countering a counter spell or shutting down healing, teleportation, etc. Now, this worked both ways, so you can drop it on your players and key monas. There's always a lot of metagaming as a DM knows what the spell the PC is casting, as they do have to declare it. Technically, the bad guy did not have to declare it, as the DM knows what they are casting. You could add in a check with Arcana, Religion, or Nature. If the bad guy's casting something and you have your players gain the insight of what is being cast. But that's just a homebrew rule. Now, as a DM, I always just told my PCs what I was casting. No need to hide it from the players if they cannot hide it from me. That's just follows the don't be a dick rule of playing tabletop RPGs. Now, in the new UA7, Counterspell reads as follows. You attempt to interrupt a creature in the process of casting a spell. The creature must make a Constitution saving throw. On a failed save, the spell dissipates with no effect and the action, bonus action, or reaction used to cast it is wasted. If the spell was cast with a spell slot, the slot is not expended. Now, the issues at hand are twofold. First, it is now a con saving throw. Now, I would assume if you had the Warcaster as a feat, you would get advantage on this, but currently, as it is read, it only is on a con saving throw if you're concentrating on a spell and take damage. But like other things in the UA7, there's not a FAQ for it yet. So if you're playtesting it, as written, it does not. Second is that it does not expend the slot if that is what was used. This becomes rather pedantic in the scheme of things, as it just delays a spell to another round. Then one could argue that if the spell fails and the slot is not used, that you could then use another action to cast something else in a slot. So my favorite example of this always is Misty Step. It is 2nd level and a bonus action. Now, rules as written states you cannot cast 2 slotted spells in the same turn. But, and there's always a but, if you attempted to cast, say, a teleport and it was shut down by the new Counterspell and the slot is not wasted, was it really cast in that round? I did not expend a slot with the new wording. Now, at my table, the answer would be no. There was an attempt to cast the spell and it did not work. They still tried to cast a slotted spell, so only a cantrip would be available. But that doesn't mean at your table you can rule it the other way. So that is the ambiguity that is left open currently, and Wizards of the Coast needs to provide some feedback on exactly what was intended. And they need to do it before the feedback forms go online and the Doomsayers tank the new Counterspell. Other concerns raised are for creatures that can cast an times per day spell that does not have a slot, such as the War Priest. So they have a per day casting of some spells, but they're not given a slot. So are those abilities just gone or not? Again, this is something Wizards of the Coast needs to clarify. And if Wizards of the Coast releases a UA, they really do need to have like a living FAQ or a follow-up video and really listen to the concerns raised by players and give some clarity to them and head them off before they're trying to sway players to a new version. Currently, the math shows that against spellcasting monsters in the 2014 Monster Manual or the Monsters of the Multiverse, the UA7 version is better, and by a lot. Remember that casters favor the mental stats, which is understandable. Githyanki Gish or an Archmage are good examples of this. These monsters are not meant to be tanks, so they do not have great con saves. Not a ton of monsters have legendary responses either, But then again, if they have them, use them. That's why they are legendary. I think that the UA7 version gives monsters about a 30% chance to succeed on the save, as again, they normally do not have a Constitution proficiency, so they're relegated to the stat bonus, which is rarely over a +2. So yes, the Archmage does have a resistance, but advantage and disadvantage mechanically only give about a 5% swing to the math. That would equate to about a 35% chance of success. Now, PCs, on the other hand, can take feats like Warcaster if it's going to extend to Counterspell, and that would give them advantage on the save. But they can also take feats that give them their proficiency bonus as well. Monsters do not. So if you as a player are concerned that your DM will be pounding you with counterspells, you always have the option of putting the odds back in your favor. If the DM is not homebrewing monsters and just running them as written, it could be a very big boon to players. Now, my concern is that a 3rd level slot can be used to drop a 9th level spell with pretty much no effort from the counterspeller to overcome something that may be well above their capabilities. There should be some type of modifier when trying to counter a spell of a monster or a spell level above you. What that could be to make it fair to both the players and the monsters is something Wizards of the Coast would have to figure out. As it stands, a level 20 wizard can be shut down by a handful of scrolls without a ton of effort unless they are built to withstand counterspelling specifically. Again, the issue I have for these playtests from Wizards of the Coast is they drop them and then they kind of leave things for the community to figure out. Lots of players do not have the time to crunch numbers or look through all the monsters, etc., to see what kind of advantages something like this would have. Wizards of the Coast leaves it to content creators to champion why players should lean one way or the other, and that's just an asinine way to run these. If Wizards of the Coast would just take the time to really explain the reason behind it and show players the math to support this, they would likely have killed this debate long before it really began. Many players just do not want change, and it shows with their comments on social media that they are not well thought out and end up making the case for the new UA7 version while thinking they have kind of a gotcha moment. Oh well. Next up is the sorcerer meta magic ability Twinned Spell. Twinned Spell is going through the ringer as well. Now, I see the overpowered problems in the 2014 Player's Handbook. This is a must-take ability currently. Wizards of the Coast has already stated that if they were to keep it as written, the cost would become untenable, so they dropped in a new one. Now, I have no skin in the game. I never play a sorcerer, with the exception in Baldur's Gate 3, but I digress. I think the new version is fine as is, but there is a limit to how effective it is. So according to tweets by Jeremy Crawford, you cannot twin spell something with an AoE as it already targets multiple creatures, and lots of other spells already target multiples by their wording. Strictly speaking, as a sorcerer, this really leaves Jump and Charm Person as first level as your options. And no, I'm not going to look at multi-classing spell lists. That really does not help you as a 2nd level sorcerer. And you're very unlikely to take a multi-class if you're a sorcerer until 4th level, as 3rd level is your subclass. And it's a long slog from 3rd to 4th level where you again may take a multi-class anyway. And again, if you're near 4th, you'll likely take it as your 4th level, gives you a feat and ability score improvement anyway. So multi-classing into sorcerer means taking at least 2 level dip to get the 2 sorcery points, and that doesn't help a ton, to be honest. 2nd level gives you more options and spells such as blindness, deafness, enhanceability, hold person, and invisibility. Also, you get Tasha's Mind Whip if you are using that optional rulebook. But again, you need to be 3rd level to even gain these, so you have a long ways to go. Your list grows beyond 3rd level, but I really don't care to keep listing everything. I think the trade-off for the 2014 version is that the sorcery point cost is only 1 per level. You would need to bump it up, leaving several spells to be more cost effective than before. Again, I really don't want to do math on the subject, but in some cases it will be cheaper or a better bang for your buck. So players will have to really choose wisely on this one. I suspect that Wizards of the Coast will keep the 2024 version even if it's overwhelmingly negative on the reviews. We cannot see the scores, so we never know if they're actually saying what the players are wanting and it's true, or just what they need to have it happen. I don't see another UA with a rewrite of the Twinned Spell meta magic coming in to test. They are running out of time. I've said it before. This will likely be the version players will have. Now, in conclusion, I still believe that Wizards of the Coast running playtests and using creation by committee feedback to set their rules is just a terrible way to do this. Again, this could lead to players just blasting through the feedback form to get to what is most important to them, leaving other items in the wake of mediocrity with baseline answers only. And if people think that others are not doing that when they answer the form, they're sadly putting too much faith in players not to be self-centered in their answers. Wizards of the Coast can say what they want about the feedback given to form what they want in one D&D to actually be. They're trying to ensure that players feel like they have made the final decision as to what goes into the book. But that, I can guarantee you, is not the case. I have multiple videos about this, so no reason to go on a rant again. And no, at this point, I would not put it past them as they're running out of time to get this published. This has been echoed by so many others who have more intimate knowledge around how long it takes to produce a product and get it to print and into stores than myself. Well, once again, thank you for all for hanging out with me today in our ever-evolving crazy world of tabletop RPGs. Let me know in the comments what you think about the new Counterspell or the new Twinned Spell options in the UA7. Do you think the players are going to downvote the changes in the feedback form? What time frame do you think Wizards of the Coast will release the Player's Handbook and others? My guess still says August for Gen Con. But I'd love to see some of you math crunchers out there give some numbers on the current Counterspell versus the new one. Which one actually works out better for the players? You may be surprised that it is the new one. Anyway, if you're enjoying my content, please remember to hit the like button, subscribe, and even hit that bell for notifications on new videos. Thanks again for watching, and may all your games be full of myth, mirth, and magic.